As a small biz pro, I saw we roll, using procurement, program and control. As a small biz pro, I saw we grow, using procurement, program and control. I'm a businessman, yes I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes I'm an entrepreneur.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Business Zone with
Crystal
and Coach Gilbert Buchanan, your small business paramedic. And folks, today we're going to have an amazing show in honor of Black History Month and keeping that tradition going. We're going to be talking about Black business importance and how it relates to the culture and how it relates to the community and the country. So my co-host, she's got some wonderful things to share with you guys today as well. So co-host, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited. So this is our last Black History presentation for the month, but of course, all throughout the year, because y'all know that we Black 365 days a year.
That's right.
But we put a highlight on it for the
Right.
month of February, and so it's been a good month. We've talked about some great stuff. Marcus Garvey. We had. We talked about the auto industry, past and present. We talked about
We
the
had
healers,
the health healer, the
the health
doctor.
here, the doctor last week, past and present. And so today, this one is near and dear to me, a passion of mine, two passions actually, working with children and making sure we're preparing for our future. And of course, tennis. So you all know that that's
Well,
that's
of
my
course,
sport.
we couldn't go through Black History Month without having my co-host presenting the tennis perspective.
Right,
Because
exactly.
we see tennis as a business as well, and we got to show how the black culture plays into that. So yes, co-host, thank you for that.
So that's what we're doing. So we got some tennis historians and enthusiasts that's in the house. So Robert Foster, he's the CFO of the American Tennis Association, the ATA, and then Marty Woods, who is I work with him with the Pete Brown Junior Tennis Program. So they're going to talk about the history of tennis and both past and kind of present. And so
So
that's going to be really exciting.
Marty Wood is that gentleman who's going to give us $5,000 today. Is that it?
No. We always looking for money.
I just wanted to see the look on his face when I said that.
we have 5 coaches we supporting. So, but
you know those interviews that people go on, right? And
yeah,
sometimes they don't know what they're up against, right? So then when they get introduced, they say, "Oh yeah, by the way, you're going to be donating $100,000 for a program today, right?" And the
right.
person's going, "Huh? No one told me that."
Right, exactly. But that's going to be our show today, and I'm excited about that. And then, of course, next month I'm lining up our guests. I think I have all 3 of the Fridays already filled for Women's History Month. Some
Mhm.
powerhouse women, and I have 2 more. I think I'm about to fill, so I got to send all that information out this week. So excited about that.
So we got
Um,
5 Fridays in March.
yeah, 5 Fridays in March,
All
so
right.
that'll be cool, and then I actually even have a couple of guests coming in, for already, got a couple of guests for April, for Business Month, so looking forward to that. Last night, speaking of Black history, everybody on it was so many Black history events going on. Hey, Marion,
Hey,
Black
Mariam,
history.
welcome to the Business Zone.
And Mary is one of our women's
Our
that's going to
guest
be
to
on
be,
our
right?
guest. Yeah, she's going to be our guest to be. Um, so we, everybody had a Black History event. I did Edison, Southern California Edison's this morning, which was fantastic. I haven't been able to go to a lot of them that were physical. So if they were virtual, I was able to get there, but if they were not, I couldn't. But last night I did attend a a learning exchange. It's called the Racial Justice Learning Exchange, and this is a project and a program that Supervisor Holly Mitchell actually hosts, and she's been hosting. This is like the 1 year anniversary. They started it in February of last year. So we had some. This is my second one, and we had some major conversations going on with talking about white fragility yesterday. And
Mm-mm-mm.
kind of interesting. We broke down into groups. It must have been close to 100 and maybe 190 people of all races there. And
Mm-mm.
so we broke down into this little group called the Circle of Chairs.
Yeah,
Various groups. There's like 8 groups actually, and
yeah.
each one of us had to talk about a time when we encountered white fragility in our personal lives. Had to be a personal story, and then everyone in the space had the opportunity, and it was actually quite powerful. Almost I think the conversations, because we had to answer 3 questions, and you can see some healing taking place within the group. So maybe I may have another podcast germinating, but it would all be about race. so, so I have to cultivate that one carefully. But I think it's covered the conversation. The only way we're going to address the issue. I don't know if we're going to ever solve the issue, but we do need to talk about the issue, and we need to talk about it in a sense that it's not our responsibility to educate white folks. White folks got to educate themselves, but however, we have to be better prepared, especially our children.
Co-host, I have a simple solution to this problem. And before I step into the solution, folks, I would like for those of you who are just tuning into this program, this is the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. We're on every Friday from 3 to 4:30. And this is the #1 small business podcast in Southern California, in the US, and the world as far as we know it. We've got a lot of listeners and viewers from all over the world. We've got from South Africa, we've got from Canada, from Egypt, from Venezuela, you name it, guys. We provide information to help small business become business ready, contract ready, loan ready, and also nonprofit ready. So we're doing something that the usual suspects don't do. So just want to let you guys know that. So if you go to the YouTube channel, folks, and you're listening to us from YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. Subscription is free. You don't have to pay anything. Just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, you can do so as well. So we can send you continuous materials so you guys can tune into our show and get up-to-date information. Like, as a matter of fact, our guests today, they're going to be talking about amazing things about tennis that you guys probably never even thought about. And this is going to help you a lot. So keep subscribing to those channels, folks, and keep listening to us. Keep us our program on the air so we can help a lot more small businesses. There's a lot of things coming up. We've got the Olympics coming up. We've got a variety of other economic programs coming up, and we're going to guide you guys through this process and make sure you guys get a piece of the contract in the government contract in pie. So, with that being said, folks,
And
I have a
hold up 1 sec, Gib. So if you guys are on the screen, you see subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can take a picture of the QR code and it will take you directly to our YouTube channel and you can hit that subscribe button.
All
All
right, I
righty.
love that.
I know, huh?
This is why I love working with you, man. You get that little technology bug, in your DNA, and you make things happen. I'm the dinosaur here. I'm not really up on the technology, guys, but my co-host, woo, she got a new gadget every month, man. She got you guys in tune.
I'm a hidden geek, a hidden geek.
Hidden geek.
one of my secret talents.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. That's why, the partnership between us will always flourish, man. It's unbelievable.
Awesome,
So,
awesome. So,
so
what's
my
your solution?
so my solution to this economic woes that we're having, folks, is there are 42 million blacks in the US based on the last census that they had back in 2020.
Hmm.
42 of us, 42 million of us. My
Okay.
solution to this is, they owe us our 40 acres and a mule reparation over the years, which they don't want to give to us. So my solution is, instead of giving these billions of dollars to foreign countries and all of these different big organizations that really don't need it, why don't they just give the blacks $50 billion? There are 42 million of us. Just give us $50 billion, and you don't have to deal with us for the rest of our lives. Okay, just give us our 50 billion. We'll invest it. We will build our communities. We'll do what we need to do. We'll start our entrepreneurship programs, and we will put money back into the programs that we run to sustain ourselves. That's what I'm suggesting to the government, because right now they think it's a burden to try to sustain the black community. An example of that is, many of the hood areas, they don't put funds in there. Like this tennis program we're going to be talking about, they don't put funds in there to help the inner cities and the dispossessed, economically dispossessed folks. What they do is they ignore us. So that's okay. You could ignore us. Just give us our 50 billion and we will invest that ourselves in our communities, and we will grow just like we did back in Oklahoma, in Greenwood, Oklahoma, when we had Black Wall Street. That's what I'm suggesting, folks. So what do you think about that, co-host?
I like that idea. I think we should take our 50 million apiece and just leave the country, period, and let them work on it themselves. Because they seem to think they got this great idea. So let them have it. And we take our 50 million and we just go and settle somewhere else. I don't have
You
a
know,
problem.
you
I
know,
think
they're gonna have conditions on this 50 billion. So, one of them is probably you can't take it and leave, because they know I'm gonna take my portion and go to Jamaica and then redevelop that area. So they're not gonna do that. But I really do think it's a great idea, because look at, Ukraine. How much money did they give to Ukraine?
oh,
How much
billions and
money do
billions
they
of
give to
dollars.
all these other foreign countries, which really didn't provide any economic upliftment for us? You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
just give us our money and leave us alone. Don't give us on any medical. Of course, they're going to want us to pay taxes every year. So yeah, we'll pay our taxes out of our 50 billion, but don't talk to us. Don't deal with us. Don't come in our communities. Don't bother us. We can flourish and support ourselves. Don't,
And so
don't you think that's a great
so
idea,
I
co-host?
I think it's a great idea, but just with Greenwood, we'll be prospering too well.
Yeah.
We won't be dependent on them. They're gonna be all jealous, and there you go. They're gonna come back and burn us down again. I
Well,
say,
now we're prepared to deal with that. So they can try it if they want. We're prepared.
I say, let's leave and let's see how they manage this country without us.
Oh man.
That's what I
Because
say.
I've been thinking of a way, because they've been stepping on our throats for the longest time, and they come up with all kinds of reasons why they don't want to help us. In small businesses, they establish those redlining system that will say, okay, if you come from this neighborhood, then we can't give you a bank loan, we cannot give you a mortgage, we can't help you, right? That's what they do. So leave us alone then. Draw a red line if you want around the whole map of the country, and give us our 50 billion. We will turn that into gold. We don't really need anyone else, any of the usual suspects.
Well, it's funny that you said that, because that Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's a
That crazy
representative,
woman there in
the
Congress.
crazy woman, right? So her suggestion this week was that there would be a division between the GOP and the Democrats,
Oh,
that
Lord.
they actually take separate parts of the country
What?
divide and segregate and just some it would be, I guess the East Coast would be all
So
GOP.
the West will definitely be
Yeah,
the Democrats, right? Because you know they hate California.
right. So it's like, okay, really? So somebody says that she takes ignorance to a whole nother
Yeah,
level.
yeah, definitely. And the thing is, they give them airtime to say that crap. You know, why don't they listen to us when we propose our economic platform? I mean, last week we did the Marcus Garvey, no, the week before, we did
Week
the
before,
Marcus Garvey economic plan, which is an amazing thing. You know, we saw what Marcus Garvey did for the black entrepreneurs and black folks who wanted to be self-sufficient. We can
right?
do some of the same thing with our 50 billion. You see what I'm saying?
Well, we definitely
We
can
can
be
turn that
self-sufficient.
sucker into gold within 5 years.
But again, you have to ask yourself. We were already not just Greenwood. We had done that all across the country.
Yeah.
After we emancipated, after we were emancipated, we actually set up it. But that was they because we were there. They generated their wealth off of our backs. They
Yeah.
couldn't have us going out and being equals to them, and they still can't have us going out and
Well, you
being
know
equal to them.
why? Because they wanted to continuously get free labor out of us. That's what
Of
they
course.
wanted.
Well, yeah, because just imagine any business just imagine how wealthy a business would become if you could hire as many people as you wanted
And don't have
and
to
you
pay
didn't
them.
have to pay them one dime. I mean, come on. I mean, everybody would be billionaires, right? Because you
Yeah.
have free labor. So yeah,
It's like having a machine that makes money, right?
yeah, exactly. And last night it was so interesting. There was a young lady. There were a couple people, and I will say this: I am so happy I am an entrepreneur because it would be very hard for me in today's age to work in a corporate environment that was run by
The
the
usual
leadership
suspect.
was the usual suspect. So this young lady, one of her when they were asking her the question about how she was affected by white fragility. I think she was biracial. There was two, one that was Indian, South Asian, and they were both saying that they work in the diversity inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion space, and all of the bodies that are doing all the work are minorities, women,
Mhm,
whatever. But
mhm,
the top layer,
mhm.
the leadership is all Anglo-Saxon white men over the age
Exactly.
of 70, right? So
Exactly.
she says she's always fighting with, you guys don't get it.
Yeah.
DEI doesn't just mean the underlings.
Yeah.
It's got to be from the top guys,
Right.
and
Right.
they like, oh no, we can't
Yeah.
do that because
No,
that gives you,
we can't lose
oh
control of you people.
no, get you people get out of your place. No,
We gotta watch you people all the time. What do you mean?
right. So it's just I don't know. But we definitely there was somebody there. We definitely the reparations will be a game changer. We just have to make sure we educate our people before we get that on how to take that and create and multiply that into a legacy wealth for their businesses, their families, and generations that are coming behind them.
Can you imagine us developing this amazing tennis program for the economically dispossessed, and we're performing on the world stage, not getting any help from the government at all, and we're showing them up on the international stage.
Oh,
That would embarrass the crap out of them.
and the same thing with teaching kids. I say with that have a entrepreneur. Hey, Greg, have
Look what the wind blew in.
an entrepreneur program for kids starting at the age of 5. Teach them how to invest their money at the age of 5. Teach them
Oh
how to, by the
man,
time they're 5 and 6 and 7 years
yeah,
old, they're already starting their businesses. By the
yes.
time they get to college, they're like a Elon Musk. They have serial businesses. They're taking care of their family. Now that's my utopia, is
Well, I would say
creating that
like a
environment.
Marcus Garvey with serial
Yeah,
businesses,
yeah,
because
there you go with a serial
Marcus had a lot more businesses than this guy, you know, and also, man, I'm telling you, by us doing that self sufficient movement, none of our people will be working for the man. They'll be working for the culture. And they're also becoming entrepreneurs who we get to teach and coach the right way. You see what I
doing
mean?
doing global business. And guess what, Gilbert? We might even get our dollar to circulate more than 6 hours.
That's what I'm
Man,
talking about.
might
The
do that
black
a little bit.
dollar will get to circulate more than 6 hours in our community. Can you imagine? Oh, that would
Yeah,
be a joy.
right,
That would be
exactly.
a joy.
That would
Man,
be
we gotta do this
that's a
campaigning.
good
We got to
vision.
campaign for
It's
50
definitely a
billion.
good vision. So we're gonna
We
keep
got a
up with.
campaign for 50 billion. Maybe our guests, when we bring them on today, they'll help us with our campaign.
Actually, I'm going to work on getting. There's a team of individuals that are working on the reparations. So either I'm going to get him on this show, I'm going to get him in the community briefing, but I'm going to work
Man,
on that.
well, you
Stephen
mentioned
Brown.
that 50 billion to them, man, because I'm telling you, man, that will help a lot. That will
It
help.
will.
They probably want to do it by family instead of individuals. You know, we got 42 million individuals, right? Black individuals. But then they may say, we can't do it individual. So we'll do it by family. Well, it's even better because then each family will get more money. And
Well,
so,
that's true.
so
So
then we can function much better.
but of course, that's only right now. Reparations are only being discussed in California, and it
Oh, yeah.
would be. I think the number right now. The last time I saw the number was $238 or $250,000 per person in
Yeah.
the state of California.
Right.
If you're a descendant of an ancestor that was enslaved,
Right.
I don't know. I would imagine all those folks that moved to Georgia and Tennessee and Mississippi and all that, they might want to come back home
Oh, they'll
soon.
be coming back. You'll be seeing that mass exodus back to California, man. I'm
Because
telling
we already know there's some states that are going to fight this to their death. Mr. Gregory said Toto just flew by.
you. What's total? What's that?
The Wizard of Oz. He's saying it's so
Oh,
windy. We're on blizzard watch right now.
yes. I got the alert earlier, man. I'm going, wow. It's a good thing I'm staying indoors.
Yeah, the rain was pretty. I was out there for about an hour and a half. It was pretty intense, but I don't think we're at blizzard level. They need to go skiing to understand what blizzard is. This
What a
ain't
real blizzard is.
it.
Or go visit the East Coast, the Northeast Coast,
Right, exactly.
Buffalo
Yeah.
and Binghamton, New York, right?
Yeah, there you go. Go on up to Buffalo, Chicago. Actually, any place over there by those lakes, you'll understand blizzards. Are we ready
So,
to rock and
co-host, you
roll?
want to introduce our guests?
I am. Okay, you guys,
All
we will
right.
bring them in. We're going to bring
Ladies
in
and gentlemen, coming to the stage.
Mr. Robert Foster and Mr. Marty Woods. So,
Mr.
hello,
Marty
guys.
Woods owes $5,000.
Put it on my tab.
There you go. There you go. Hey, Robert, how have you been? It's been
I'm just wonderful. I did want to make an informational note. I have been now elected as first vice president of the American Tennis Association. My term of CFO ended 2 months ago. So,
Oh, wow.
I'm now first vice
okay.
president. And
So first vice president, huh?
yeah, and so now this is a 100% volunteer organization. I just want to add that too. Yeah.
So there's no money coming this way then, huh?
Yeah. So I just want to add that.
Well, that means you're in a better position to get your portion of that 50 billion, okay?
Yeah. Well, speaking of reparations, you guys reminded me of there's a guy at Duke University. You might want to get him on your show, William Darity, and he's the founder of the theory of stratification economics, and he's all about reparations. And so read some of his stuff, and I think he's pretty accessible.
Uh-huh.
Well, while you're at it, since you were talking about white fragility, get Robin DiAngelo on too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, because that, the it was amazing. And when I was talking to Holly was saying yesterday, she goes, well, when we first put out that title, she goes, oh my God, did we get all kinds of email because they were like, how dare you guys? Wait a minute, how can this come from the supervisor's office? And what
Yeah,
do you mean white fragility? And she said her response was, it's a book. It's in the library,
it's
at
out
least for
there.
now.
Yeah, but the one thing I think is important that when we think of white fragility, we're not talking about racism or white supremacy. We're talking
Exactly.
about the uncomfortableness of talking about
Yes,
black subject, especially at
exactly.
work.
Exactly. So that's what we're doing. So yeah, so it was quite enlightening. Um, but in May, the topics for she does this every month, and so the topic in May is actually on Black and Indigenous reparations. Although the Indigenous individuals got their reparations,
Yep.
everybody got
Yep.
their reparations but us.
Yep.
So I'm not quite sure why we having a conversation
Yep.
about them, but
And see, they turn their portion of the reparation into gold.
they
Running all
did.
those casinos, and they've got certain land assigned to them. Oh man,
Don't have
we
to pay
need
any
we need
taxes.
ours.
Don't have to pay no taxes. So
No taxes.
we need the same negotiators.
Greg said he's on his best behavior because we got guests in the studios.
Okay, great. So, Robert, glad to have you back. Marty Woods, this is your first time on the Business Zone. Of course, not my first time knowing me, but it's first time on the Business Zone. So we're glad to have you.
Welcome,
Welcome.
Mr. Woods.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me,
Uh,
guys.
so,
Robert can tell you about how much fun we had the last time. We had a great time, man, the last time.
Oh, Gilbert, I'm going to start calling you the Marcus Garvey.
That's right. That's right, baby. Man, if I can implement some of his economic policies, man, I'm telling you, we'll be fine.
Well, I think you're on the way. I think you're on the way. He was big on doing for yourself.
Yes, yes.
I think that is one of the best principles we all can have.
Yes.
Is instead of looking to others, look within yourself. And that was a big component of Marcus Garvey.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's what we've been promoting on this show, man, that self-sufficiency, and all of those types of programs. It's just amazing. And I believe we'll get there. I'll definitely believe we'll get there.
And that actually is a good segue into the history of Black tennis, because the American Tennis Association had to become and like everything else, a do-it-yourself, because we were excluded from the U.S. Tennis world and our Anglo Americans, their tennis world. And so with that is a great way to go into it. So can you tell us a little bit, Robert, why there has to be or had to be a separate organization to represent the Black tennis players?
Yeah, thank you. Well, the American Tennis Association started on November 1916 at the then the only Black YMCA in the country, and that was on 12th Street in Washington, in the Shaw District in Washington, D.C. And so a group of upper middle class Blacks who were doctors, lawyers, teachers, professionals, they got together and they said, why don't we get together and have our own organization? Because tennis matches had really been played by clubs around the country, I'd say since the 1890s. And you're talking about Black clubs that were not allowed to play at white clubs or be involved in anything at white, because as you know, the Supreme Court, I believe it was in 1898, the Plessy versus Ferguson, the separate but equal case, made segregation the law of the land. And so segregation at that point was considered the normal way of doing business. And when you look at that, slavery had only ended in 1865. We had Reconstruction, and that ended in 1877 because of the 1877 Compromise that basically said, that the federal government would pull all of their troops and support out of the South so that it could be a free-for-all again. But anyway, so in 1916, a group of these professionals got together from all of these clubs and said, we need to start a national organization where we can come together and play the game we love. And that was the way tennis was played. We had the only Black national tennis organization, and we are still the oldest African American national sports organization since 1916. And to be honest with you, we're the most diverse and the oldest organization that promoted diversity since 1916. And if you get down back into the 1940s, we had about 145 clubs around the country where Blacks would get together and play tennis, and then they would come annually to the national championships, and that was the ATA National Championship. I hope that wasn't a wordy.
No, that was a great historical journey for us, because that's what we wanted to talk about. So some of obviously, for those that are new to tennis, think that Serena and Venus was the beginning, but they were not.
No.
But Althea Gibson and Arthur Ashe, and you probably can give us a list of many others that were part of that historical journey.
Well, you right here locally, one of the most famous, Jimmy McDaniel, who went to high school here to manual arts, and he was really interesting. The Wilson Sporting Goods store had him come and play Don Budge, who at that time was the first grand. He won all of the four major tournaments and what we refer to as the Grand Slam. And he came to Harlem to the Cosmopolitan Club, and that was sponsored by Wilson. And he played Jimmy McDaniel, who at that time was the top Black tennis player in the Black community. Of course, that was considered the breaking the barrier of getting whites and Blacks together playing tennis.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
And that was in 1940.
So that's in the 1940s.
Yeah, I mean, when you look after that, of course, people know, of those who came after them. You look at Arthur Ashe, Althea Gibson. Althea Gibson really was the first African American to win a major tennis tournament, not Arthur Ashe.
Wow.
But she came a decade too early. And speaking of white fragility, it was a white woman, a white tennis player, who actually protested her not being able to play in 1950. That really touched on the consciousness of, at that time, was the United States Lawn Tennis Association, which is today the USTA. And so it is really Althea Gibson and those who supported her, irrespective of color, that she was really our first to break the color barrier in terms of winning, one of the major championships. And she not only did that, she was a good singer. She appeared on what then was the most popular show, the Ed Sullivan Show, singing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So so she, and then you couldn't make any money because at that time there was no, if you were a professional, you couldn't play in these tournaments. You had barnstormers, but the barnstormers were not allowed to play in these major tournaments. So she wasn't making any much money, I should say. Then after that, in the 60s, she went into golf, trying to make some money. So I think we owe Althea a great amount of gratitude for
She
her graciousness, her emotional intelligence. One thing you will not hear is of Althea Gibson crying, "Oh, it's me." She basically very prideful, had a lot of dignity, and this is one of the things I think that we want to use as an example for our kids to let them know. Look at Althea Gibson. Carry
right.
yourself like Althea and Arthur.
You know, those trailblazers are usually the sacrificial lamb for us. You see what I mean? There
Yeah,
has to be someone who is going to go out there, test the waters, test boundaries, get sacrificed so that the people behind them can come up and sharing on some of the glory.
yeah,
It's amazing that you mentioned the lawn tennis aspect because when I was born in Jamaica, and in Jamaica that's how we refer to tennis. You know, we call it lawn tennis. We never call it just tennis or whatever. We call it lawn tennis. So you just brought back some memories for me right now.
but yeah, I mean, when you look at that tennis, it came from England, and
Yeah.
Jamaica was a colony
Yes.
of the UK,
Yes.
and tennis was all about the affluence. And
Yeah.
I remember growing up, because tennis is not a cheap
No,
sport.
it's
Uh,
not.
there isn't like basketball. You get a ball, you can go out and you can hoop, but tennis you need to become just recreational.
Yeah.
You need lessons.
Mm-hmm.
You need equipment.
Yes.
You need a court that's accessible to you,
Yes.
and that is a lot. So if you in JA, I can only imagine uh, when you look at the people playing tennis, those people had good jobs and had some distinct
Oh yeah. Oh yes. That was an elite activity for the well-to-do. You know.
Yeah, and it really hasn't changed a lot in that
Right.
it was President Franklin Roosevelt, as part of the New Deal and the public works program that he had, building tennis courts around the country was part of that. So a lot of these tennis courts at some of these old high schools and parks, that was part of the public works to get us
Right.
out of the Great Depression.
Right.
But even still, tennis is really a middle class um, sport where we
Right.
try and bring in kids from underserved communities
Yes.
and help them play down on this game, because this game really is about problem solving. It is about developing good emotional intelligence, which you really need if you're going to navigate in this world.
Yes.
Exactly. And summer is very reticent of when I skied. Same thing. That's an elite
Oh yeah,
sport that's particularly specific to the Caucasian world. And we had to break through some barriers as well to get on the snow. The National Brotherhood of Skiers, which is very similar to the ATA, they just celebrated their 50 years as an organization, bringing folks to the snow, right? And so, is these programs, and this is what we have continually had to do. We had to segregate ourselves in order to be part of whatever it was, and you had to
Yeah.
have a coalition
Yeah.
fighting through the minutia so that you could engage and enjoy a sport just like they did.
Yeah.
Right. And then in the early days, we had a lot of elite blacks. They rose up, doctors and lawyers, and
Yeah.
they learned from when they went to school as well. Why can't we participate in the sport just like you are participating in the sport? So, Robert, when did you start playing tennis?
I started playing about 20 years ago.
Okay.
I was a baller. I played basketball, and I was a junkie. I was never good enough to play at the college level, but I was a hell of an intramural player.
You got it. You got it in the genes, man. You got it in the DNA.
Yeah, and I knew to give up basketball when I start getting these ball fakes from guys. Like they fake like they're gonna throw me the ball, and I wasn't getting the ball. And so, that was the signal for me to try something else. And then from there, I started playing golf. And so I was kind of doing golf and tennis. But tennis, I got the love of tennis because the social aspect of it, and I could be very competitive, and I could get my cardio up. I couldn't get my cardio up in golf; just my frustration went up.
Yeah, and it's a walking sport, but not definitely. Yeah, you don't definitely get any cardio. That's pretty awesome. Were you introduced to the sport?
I didn't do much walking. I rode a cart on the golf course.
Oh, the true lazy sport. So, were you introduced to? Yeah, right, exactly. Were you introduced to tennis by someone else, or did you just meander out there?
Well, I had played at tennis. As a matter of fact, before I got married, my wife and I would go out and hit some tennis. I considered it something, as a social way of communicating to make a path inward. For romance or something, but I didn't really,
a tool.
I didn't really know how to play. People would tell you, but it was just something to do.
It was a good date. It was a good date.
Yeah, but I got into tennis really thinking about it seriously. Some guys who played, they were good players, and they invited me out to play some doubles. And I said, sure, I can play. And they embarrassed me because they talked about me so bad. And so I went and took lessons. There's a guy, you guys may know him, Don Bly.
Yes.
In Inglewood. I took lessons from Don Bly, Calvin Bennett. And then I got the bug. And the thing that really got me was the social aspect of it, and the communal aspect of tennis, and the game itself. It makes you reflect on your own character, calls you have to make. Are you making good calls?
Yeah.
When you get your butt kicked, you have to go and shake the opponent's hand, and that lets you know you got to leave it right here.
Right.
And those are things that help you mature and
build integrity.
That's right. That's right, Gilbert. That's the Marcus Garvey influence.
Yes, that's right.
but
one of the amazing things that tennis also does, besides building integrity, it builds you up health-wise too, because it makes you physical and fit, because you're moving in so many different directions on the spot. I love that.
Yeah, that's good. I've had, because of tennis, I've had 3 knee surgeries too. So I
know. I'm suffering with 2 right now.
But my cardio is better than it would be otherwise. We love tennis. It's kind of a small industry. When you look at tennis, the tennis industry is about a $2 billion business. Maybe the tennis equipment might be a $4 billion, but you look at the NFL, that's a $17-18 billion.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Oh yeah.
And when you look at it, we try and look at it as a lifetime recreation that you could have all of your life.
Oh yeah.
If you start looking at it from a business standpoint, you're talking about really only the top 100 players who play professionally are really making money. We look at it, getting these kids in the universities and colleges to where they can develop skills that will carry them on, and they could play with their family, because it's one of the few sports that's a family recreation that you can have the rest of your life as a family.
Yes.
Right. And also a sport that, provided you keep your knees in check, that you can play well into your 70s and your 80s, depending on how fit you are. Because there are many 70 and 80, probably some 90-year-olds that are out there on the court.
Oh yeah. We know a few. Don Bly, he just turned 90, and he's going to try and get in shape to play.
Oh wow.
It's a diehard sport.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Marty, go ahead. Go ahead.
But you figure there's 22 million. It's estimated that 22 million people play tennis, and about 1.9 million are African American, and we really like to grow that to be a little more.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so that's a great segue for Mr. Marty Woods, because we have a program, and Marty is a byproduct of the Pete Brown Jr. tennis program. So he's going to tell us a little bit about that. But the program, I got involved in the program, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago. Came to the park. I played tennis in high school, and right about the same time when they start charging, and I played in college, and then they start charging for the local courts, and then I kind of got distracted, and I started playing, and I started skiing at that point, and I just kind of left tennis to the wayside. But my brother-in-law really had learned how to play tennis, and so my sister was looking for a Christmas gift to give to my brother-in-law, and he's very difficult to buy for. And so he had told her that he had been involved in a program when he was a kid called Pete Brown, with Pete Brown, and he did like tennis. So she went out and found a tennis racket, because at that time we were going through an economic downturn. Tennis rackets were pretty cheap, and then he loved it, and so they went out to play tennis, and then asked me to come out, and that's when I met Marty. And as I was out there also learning, I realized I had some skills that I could add to the program. So with that, Marty, I'm gonna turn it over to you, and welcome to the Business Zone, and tell us from your aspect, how important tennis has been to you, and exactly how you got involved in tennis.
Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate having this opportunity. And I just wanted to echo what Robert was saying about, how important our history is, and how important folks were that we now stand on their shoulders. And one person I wanted to really give props to was Arthur Ashe and Charlie Passarelli, who started the NJTL program. I think they were a couple guys. They were at the U.S. Open, and they said, you know what, we need to get more minorities in low-income areas involved in tennis. So they got together and they created what we call is the NJTO, which is the National Junior Tennis League, where they went and gathered funds and created a funding pool and impacted low-income communities. So that kind of segues into kind of Pete Brown. Pete Brown was a surrogate of that whole movement. And one day I was a young kid, and Pete Brown was big for me. And I can tell you how this whole thing connects. Is one day I was 6 years old. I grew up fatherless in a really tough community. Me and my two older siblings were walking to a swimming hole one day. And as we passed the swimming hole, there was the tennis courts that day with balloons, banners, tons of kids playing amongst the tennis courts. And we hear this voice echo through the park. Hey, kids, do you want to learn the sport of tennis? So at that time, we community kids didn't really play that sport. So we looked at each other and we thought about it. And then Pete Brown said, you get a free tennis racket. So the allure was the free tennis racket. So we got the paperwork, we took it home, mother filled it out. That next Saturday we were on the court. and I never stopped playing. And the thing about it is Pete was not only a coach for me, he was a mentor. He was a father figure. He was a disciplinary. All of this stuff. He had created this environment for kids. And I always knew, folks asked me in the past, I did a couple other speaking engagements, and they asked me, Marty, when did you know you wanted to go to college? And I thought about it, and I always knew I wanted to go to college because Pete had me, he always had us on college campuses. He had us at country clubs. He had college kids and college students come to our community park and mentor us and speak with us and help us with our homework and help us with different things. Right around 2009, Pete fell ill. He called me up. He was like, "Hey, Marty, need to get you involved. I'm slowing up a bit." And of course, I was all in on it. And unfortunately, late 2009, Pete passed away. So I said, okay, I need to keep his legacy alive in this community. So that's when I founded the Pete Brown Jr. Tennis Program to basically keep his legacy alive and basically do the same things he did for me and offer me those opportunities. So it all came together. So that's how I was introduced to the sport.
And now with Pete, he didn't, Pete Brown Jr., the program now is a nonprofit. So we seek funding in order to support the program. But Pete wasn't a nonprofit, right? How did he sponsor the program?
Well, Pete was funded by the NJTL program, like Arthur Ashe and Passarelli's program, which they were able to give them seed money and funded them throughout the year to impact low-income communities. So they were funded by the NJTL, which was funded by the USTA.
Okay. And so California or Los Angeles seems to have a lot of tennis players that have come out of the local tennis clubs or tennis courts. I know Serena and Venus were out of Compton, and you Robert had mentioned it, and you also mentioned on Jimmy McDaniel. So can you go a little bit more? I didn't know that Manual Arts, and Mona will love that because that's where she went to school, and she always takes a lot of guff from being at Manual while everybody else went to Crenshaw and LA High and Dorsey. And so she will love that. So can you tell me a little bit more about that? And so a lot of our coaches, Pete Brown, Calvin Bennett, they were coaches, weren't they? Don Bly and what's the guy that recently died, Bobo?
Well, Mel Lewis really wasn't a coach. He was an elite player. But you're right. These coaches, like Pete Brown, Don Bly, Oscar Johnson, Richard Williams, they were a part of this coalition of black coaches. They actually had their own organization. And I've seen letters of Arthur Ashe communicating with these guys, instructing them, encouraging them, and letting them know, hey, you guys keep pushing forward with your vision, sharing their sponsors with them. And I think back in the day, Coca-Cola and Burger King were really on board with the vision. And I would see these letters from Arthur Ashe, telling guys like Hollis Smith and these guys to reach out to Burger King. They may support you. Reach out to such and such. They may support you. So they were all a part of this coalition. And what ended up happening, I think, where the disconnect came was the USTA Southern California section came to them and said, okay, we could support these communities a little better. Why don't you sell us this organization and then we'll support you guys? And that ended up happening. And I think they kind of a little bit of that, I want to say management or little bit of the power was given away there. And of course, they end up supporting it, but it was breadcrumbs versus big pieces of the pie. So it was tough for guys like that, but they kept pushing along and they kept impacting doing the things they, to impact these low-income communities and make life and put these kids in positions to go to college and achieve big, to come back and help out a bit. So.
And what is the mission of Pete Brown? I know, but for the world, what? How do we position ourselves in the tennis world when it comes to being a grassroots program?
Well, as you know, Pete Brown, tennis is a microcosm to life, and academics is huge for us. Exposing these kids to things like STEM, to college campuses, to major achieving professionals that we bring in to mentor the kids, basically preparing these kids to achieve big, and then possibly bringing these kids back in after, of course, they went out on their journey, they've created their life, to get them to come back and really be passionate about supporting organizations like mine. That's where my focus is right now.
Now, Marty and Robert, I know you guys are ardent supporter of the sport of tennis, but one of our listeners have a question for both of you, or either of you. He wants to know, this is Greg Sneed, our field correspondent. He wants to know, what do you think about the latest rage about pickleball? I know it's not the same as tennis, but
I played pickleball.
You do?
And I'll say this: it's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah.
And learn about what they call the kitchen, a little part there next to the net. It reminds me of wiffle ball a lot, or a ping pong with a wiffle ball. It's
like ping pong on the lawn tennis court, right?
Yeah, but I'm all for it. It's not something that I would put a lot of effort in at this stage in my life, but I like it. I think it's good.
How about you, Marty? What do you think about it?
Well, I was a little hesitant because they were taking courts and turning them into pickleball courts. So we were using courts, but as I started looking at the momentum and started looking at how many people are actually enjoying the sport and now are able to play, I think it's a movement that we have to prepare for. So now I'm embracing it.
Yeah.
And maybe in a few years I'll pick up a racket and give it a shot. But I think as a country and as tennis community, we have to embrace it because it's coming and it has a lot of momentum behind it, and it has a lot of dollars behind it.
And a lot of younger people are getting involved with that. And when I checked it out, I was thinking, Robert mentioned earlier that, hey, we got to fundraise. We got to generate some funds for this tennis program. Maybe that would be a good way to start bringing in some of these younger folks, get them involved and say, hey, I'll lease you guys this court for X amount of hours. You pay us this, and you can raise some funds that way, Robert. What do you think, Robert?
I think we have to explore all avenues to raising funds, because the USTA, who is the governing body that was sanctioned by Congress back in the 70s, they're now also including pickleball and pickleball development. And then you look at the certification, the PTR coaches and the USPTA, they have a pickleball certification program for coaching. So I think that is something that we have to explore. But we're a small, even though we're national, we're really are a confederation of trying to grow our network around the country in our underserved communities and help those. And we want our middle class people who, irrespective of color, who have an interest in helping these communities to help us to give funds. For example, we help kids go to these tournaments. Do you know, to go to a national tournament across the country, you're talking plane fare, hotels, food. That could be $3,000 just to go, and $4,000 to $5,000 to go play a tournament. for
That's
your
true.
top junior. So I feel like I'm preaching. So you did ask about pickleball, so I'll just leave it at that.
Well, pickleball is like when skiing, when snowboarding came in, it was we had the exact same problem. It's like you're invading our runs. You all over the place. You don't even flow like we do. So you are just like disrupting the sport, right? But we realized that it was a great way to bring kids in.
Yeah.
For me, I never did. Skiing was hard enough to master. I was not going in and learning to master no other sport. So, and I didn't have the flexibility to be a snowboarder anyway. So there were a lot of us that were very resistant. You spent a lot of time on the ground as a snowboarder. So it's the same concept. And when snowboarding became an Olympic sport, that was it. It was a done deal. We had to learn how to share the snow, the runs with them, and so we learned to coexist. And now it's an embrace sport all across the board. So I imagine pickleball is going to be the same, have the same effect on tennis or lawn tennis.
You co-host, you felt the same way that Marty felt when this thing started. Hey man, you guys are occupying our court. What's up with that?
Right. Well, yeah, we would be at the mountain, man, and all of a sudden you see a snowboarder come up on the right side of you or the back side of you and just take you out. So, yeah, we had a problem with it. You find yourself on the ground and all your ski stuff all over the place, and then some idiot and then just taking you out because they surfing on their board. So, but eventually they created segments of the mountain specifically for them, and so then it wasn't a lot of interaction with us and them. But yeah, in the beginning, it was your life, man. Your life was in danger.
So, Greg, did that answer your question, Greg? I hope that addressed your question satisfactorily. So, Marty, tell us where you guys are right now with the tennis program and trying to getting it more, providing more awareness so more people can get involved in that. Where are you at with that, Marty?
Well, of course, we were always looking for more funding to really do more creative, impactful work in that community. But we're growing pretty fast. We're creating partnerships. We're really looking into like the business side of this and really trying to see how we can monetize and really start. We've created some partnerships where we can really look at giving, monetizing and bringing dollars back into the program. I think that's going to be big going forward for us. I think one of our couple big achievements we had was look at me now, I'm wearing Italian sportswear. So we actually created a partnership with this organization, this company, and now this company is now giving dollars back to Pete Brown as we sell merchandise. So these are sort of the relationships we're going to really try to move forward to, looking forward to in the next year or two. And we have a big push to create the next champion for the 2028 Olympics that are coming. That's in our forefront. So we're really heightening our coaches, making sure that our coaches are really developing the children. We're adding tons more positive life skills and academic and educational components to our program. We've partnered with Best Buy, the Best Buy technology group here in the city. They do STEM, robotics, and great things like that. We've now formed a partnership with USC Keck School of Medicine, to where our kids will be going to the USC campus and getting mentorships and apprenticeships with that organization. So we're really moving forward and really trying to do big things in the next couple of years. So
how many competitions do you run per year to help to bring in funds?
Well, we have 3 tournaments at our site this year. We had 2, but we were fortunate enough to get another one added this year. So that's 3, but there's other country clubs and adjacent parks that have 10 to 15 tournaments a year.
Yeah.
So
how about you, Robert? How many tournaments do you get involved in per year?
We have won our national tournament,
Mhm.
which again goes back to 1917. So our tournament, you won't find any other African American tournament that goes back that far.
Right.
What we're trying to do now, as I said, we're more of a confederation as opposed to a hierarchy. Is
Right.
we want to be more of an information channel for folks around the country to make them aware of the various tournaments. What I do is I go around the country. I'll be going to St. Petersburg in a few weeks to Sowing Seed, which is an African American fundraiser, and I also in Dallas, Texas, the USTA in Texas. We're going to work with them to develop a juniors a tournament, and so we're going to try and develop about 3 or 4 junior tournaments, our high performance junior tournaments around the country, because a lot of times people can't afford to travel across the country to play in our nationals. So we can start developing that. And then what we really also want to do is to get more adults involved, because I'm telling you, to keep the game going, you need to have people playing on a recreational level, not
Yeah.
just those who are trying to be to get a college scholarship or to be high
Right.
performance.
Right.
Because
Right.
when you look at the kids and the adults, there are not many of us who have that skill, but we have the love for a game. We do need to support our local programs, and so that's where we're at. Oh, we do
Now,
have a lot of webinars too.
now, before I turn it back over to my co-host, because I know she's got some great questions, I just want to ask you and Marty this: have you guys thought about putting together like YouTube videos, which would be like a promo type of video to create awareness in communities? Because I think that would really help with the fundraising aspect, the awareness aspect, getting more people involved. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. We have discussed that. Our challenge now is getting people to come in and volunteer that, because, as you know, a lot of it takes commitment of time.
Yeah.
And just like in most churches, you may have 4 or 5 people doing the work, but you'll have 2 or 3,000 there on Sunday, but you
Yeah.
won't see them doing the work.
Yeah. That's true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the P Brown program, in addition to the programs that Marty talked about, we have a family health and wellness day. We partnered with a number of organizations in the community. So, and that was part of one of the achievements we received was the Naomi Osaka grant, which was about empowering girls in the sport. So last year we were super busy. Every month there's something going on, and we actually have a grassroots program, the quick starts. These are the babies coming in and just learning, and then we have junior development and actually kids that are in the tournament space, the elite team. We have a number of kids, and Marty can talk to that, a number of kids that are at college, because I think ultimately, there's no guarantee we're going to create this pro, but we can get all 150 kids to college. And so I think ultimately that's what we're really working on. But we want kids to be holistically healthy, in addition to academically ready for any aspect of their life. So Marty, you want to talk about the kids that are went off to college and use tennis as a vehicle to get there?
Sure. Yes. And I could take a step back and talk about the YouTube. I think YouTube is critical because of the activations, like Crystal said, with our health, fitness, and nutrition activations we have once a month, to get that out there, to get what we're doing out to the public and let them see. We were fortunate enough to create a partnership with an organization called Brothers on Tennis, which is now going to be doing our YouTube page pro bono for us for free. So they're going to come out to our events. They're going to film it. They're going to splice it. They're going to redo it and make it really look great for YouTube. And they actually put up our first video yesterday, which was our Go Girl Power Me Up partnership with the USC women's team. That is now on our YouTube page, ready to roll. And then weekly, they'll be coming with content weekly for our organization. So we're looking forward to that. And thank you, because YouTube is big, and we do need to have a bigger presence on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, Gilbert. And just to touch base on what Crystal was saying about, of course, we want our kids to achieve big. And we know all kids will not go to Division I. I mean, of course, our kids want to go to USC, UCLA, Stanford, but we know that's not achievable. But so we give our kids options: Division II, Division III, JC schools, even technical trade tech, where Pete taught at for 25 years, trade technical college, where you can go in and learn a trade. We're creating a partnership with an organization in Compton called Youth Build. And what they do is they take kids that want to learn a trade, where they don't want to go to college. They want to go right in and learn a trade. So they connect them with apprenticeships, huge corporations and companies that get them right on the job site immediately. So we have several pathways for these kids. Some success stories that I'm proud to talk about is we had a young lady who is now in her second year at Harvard University, Maxie Duncan, who just recently was interviewed by a huge magazine for achieving big as an African-American athlete. We have a girl now at Norfolk State, Virginia, that's really doing well. We have a young lady that's at Cal State LA that's achieving big. We have a kid now that's at a JC in the desert, College of the Desert, that's getting ready to move on maybe next year to a Division I school. So we're doing some big things that we're proud about, and some kids that are really achieving. So
that's great, man. See, these are the things that a lot of people out there don't even know about. So by putting together those YouTube videos and other things, man, that will just bring it to light, you know?
I agree.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, here are some of our videos. We a lot is going on at the park on a regular basis. We're there on Saturdays, and we're there on Tuesdays through Thursday. And so these are some of the kids. This is what they're learning. And we have certified coaches, and we're really proud of that. And I don't know why that won't play, but I think overall on our roster, we have about 150 kids, but on a norm, I would say, what do you say, Marty, about, for whatever reason, this is not going to play. On a norm, we probably have, about 25, 30 kids?
Well, what we want to focus on right now, because we had a relationship with Kobe Bryant before he passed away, and he wanted us to come up with an elite 24. Okay, great. So that's kind of stuck with us. Yeah. And it seems that elite, that number 24 and 25 seem to be the number of kids that we have out there that are achieving big on the court. And maybe out of one of those elite 24, we're hoping one of those kids will compete in the Olympics coming up as a player out of that community. Mm-hmm. So let's call it, Crystal, our elite 24.
Okay, so our elite 24, Gilbert.
I love it.
But as we all know, as our kids move in and move out, we always have to have a feeder, and that's where we are always recruiting for the grassroots part of the program, which is the quick starts, so that they're being developed continuously through the process. And as the kids, they hit that mark and it's time to head for college, which at one point we were at that place. We had all these kids. We had about 10, 15 kids, and all of a sudden 5 of them they were gone. So we realized you got to keep the cycle going. Yeah. Because that's the goal, is to get them in there, develop them, and get them at least to qualify so that they can go away to college. I think that's so important, to be able to have a mechanism. And for some parents, that's why they put their children in tennis, is so that they can have that opportunity to go to college.
Yeah, and to get those kids to do a full circle and come back, Crystal, is big. To get them to come back and achieve and get involved with the organization after they've created their legacy, I think is critical for us too, for survival
Right.
of organization.
And we have a couple of kids. The Tori Bailey just came back, and we are so proud of Tori because, the last year, 2 or 3 years before he went to college, he really just one day he was lackadaisical, and the next thing he's on. He was Marty took him to New York, and he was on the stage with Billie Jean King, and he won an essay with the ESPN something another he won. And he went away to school, and he was just so confident. So now he's one of our coaches that's working with the kids. So yeah, ultimately it's great if they can come back. And eventually, when Marty decides it's time to retire, we will have a kid already groomed, or several children already groomed to take over.
That's good. That's very good.
Yeah. So for both of you, what would you guys like to see the future of tennis in our communities from the ATA standpoint, and Marty, from you from the local tennis program standpoint? So Robert.
Yeah, I'd say from the ATA standpoint, we just would like to see more people getting involved, not in just the game, but in the administration aspect of the game. People with various skill sets, attorneys, students that are into multimedia platforms, AI, and all of these types of things, who have these skills to get involved. You can reach out to us at the ATA, and we can connect you to people in your communities if you want to do something at the community level all over the country. We're very proud that a lot of people, such as, not just Arthur Ashe and Athea Gibson, but recently Coco Gauff. She's an ATA player. You guys know we have a lot of people who have come through, what's his name? Mal Washington. He played ATA. When you look at just so many professional people have played ATA. And so we want to keep this proud heritage alive, and we want to be a conduit to give information and to tell people about what's going on in their communities. I know Jack and Jill now has a partnership with the USTA, but so many of the Jack and Jillers play community tennis in our underserved community. So people will call us and ask us, who should we contact? And we just like to be in a position to say, well, reach out to Pete Brown and these types of programs, so that they know there are places in the country for them to get help and support.
Awesome. And Marty?
No, just to piggyback off what Robert said, a couple things is I think the ATA is doing a wonderful job, and they're kind of picking up where Arthur Ashe and Charlie Passarelli left off. Robert will reach out to us and say, hey, here's an opportunity, or here's a partnership you may want to look at. Here's a place where here's an organization that may have some synergy, where you guys may want to partner with. These are the sort of things to have an organization like the ATA to be there for us and to guide us. So I really appreciate everything you guys are doing, Robert. And when I was a kid, I used to love going to the ATA. I mean, that was a big thing in our community. But what I'd like to see moving forward, guys, is number one is I think we need to have more economic engagement in this sport. Like Robert said, it's a lot of dollars flowing through this sport, and we're not privileged to a lot of it. There's rackets being strung, there's strings, there's shoes, there's court rentals, there's like you said, Gilbert, fundraising tournaments at our sites, partnerships, all these things. And I think we have to start looking at that side of this, being on the business zone, the business of this, to really solidify ourselves down the road. So thanks for letting me.
Right, and I think also when we look at it, just like any other sport, there's equipment and there's merchandise, right? So
Mhm.
even creating and selling merchandise, the kids learning, and one of the things I'm passionate about is teaching kids how to be entrepreneurial. So if you have you're in a sport that you absolutely love, then coming up with a product that is based upon that, T-shirts that tell a message or empower kids in engaging them in the sports, and kids actually creating their uniforms and things like that, where then you can sell those, and baseball caps, and there's just so many things that you could actually sell, or to create that economic piece of it, and teaching the kids also about, once they finish playing tennis or once they graduate from college, if they didn't go pro, you can still be in the sport by having a business that's in relationship to the sport that you absolutely love, like a tennis warehouse or tennis express, right? Those are tennis players more likely, and they got into
Yeah,
the
I mean,
sport apparel.
I'd love to get one of these kids to create the next Lacoste. I mean,
Right,
Yeah.
we
exactly.
might have the next Lacoste out there. You know what I mean? We have to give it an opportunity, guys, to
Right.
try. But
Eh,
Now, one of the things that we do on the business zone and also within our companies, we prepare entrepreneurs to become actually ready, business ready, contract ready, and even nonprofit ready. Because a lot of small businesses, they feel like they're ready, but when we put them to the test, they're really not. There's a lot of things missing. And I believe it's the same thing within the tennis space as well. Many of these talents, they're talented, but they're not really ready. So I'm thinking that another way that your program could elevate many of these talents is to you do the preparation, the readiness training and preparation, and then if they compete among themselves and they win, then elevate them to another level where now they're probably competing with higher level talent, and then you make it a big, it may not be the NBA or the WNBA, but it might be, like college basketball, something similar to that, right? But in the tennis space, I'm thinking something like that could help. What do you guys think?
I like it.
Well,
I
And
like
then
it.
the eyes of the bigger talent will be on them and go, hey, where have these kids been all my life?
Yeah,
Let's try
I'd
to
like to
bring
hear
them in.
Robert's take on
Yeah.
that. He's got the financial
You know what
mind.
I mean?
What's your take on that, Robert?
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's good, but it's in a limited way, because
Mm.
right now, when you look at the United States Tennis Association, they're the governing body. They have the infrastructure. You have
Oh, I
levels
see.
of tennis. You have everywhere from level 5 up to level 1 in
Yeah.
terms of juniors. And when you look at college recruiters, they're going to be at these high level tennis tournaments. They're going to check out your UTR number, and they're going to see how many points and where you are. There's something called the Easter Bowl that's going to be out here in Indian Wells next month that I'll be going to. That's where you see your top players. But I
Yeah.
think what we can do as a community is to help our coaches, to help these programs in the community, like Pete Brown, to help develop these kids,
Yeah.
because it's a meritocracy. And that's
Mhm.
the one thing that after you had integration that was really big after the Brown versus Board of Education and 64 Civil Rights Act, you had African American blacks from all over the world wanting to go out and compete in the general market. So it's a meritocracy. So we have to prepare our kids
Yeah.
and our adults to think that way,
Yeah.
not to be so myopic to say, let's get our own little stuff, because
Right.
you can't, your little fishbowl is not where you play the game.
Right. Right.
Right,
Right. I
exactly,
see.
exactly.
So could you flip it another way? Because since it's coming from the organizational level, could you then partner with sponsors like Sprite and McDonald's? Because like in basketball, you have the McDonald's championship or the
Yeah,
Sprite champ. Can you
that,
partner with those guys?
that's what we're trying to do now. Is
Yeah.
when you reach out, a lot of times sponsors want to reach out to you.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll find that since we're a 501c3, you know, you want people that are happy for you to apply for grants. But when
Yeah.
you talk about sponsorship, you and I both know that that's a different animal,
Yeah.
because that's a relationship thing. Now, what
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
nice is if you had, like the USTA would say, look, ATA, look, Pete Brown, we want to give you access to these relationships for sponsorships. And so what sponsorship really is someone saying, is there a business case for me giving you dollars?
Yeah.
What will I get in return in terms of exposure? The grants are generally for corporate citizenship. So I think we have to distinguish between corporate citizenship and the economics of sponsorship.
Right.
Exactly.
That's a good point. That's a
great point, Robert.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And with the ATA, I mean, I've attended one of the annual tournaments, and it's amazing to see the adults and the kids. And I mean, there's like thousands of everybody there, and then the history that's going on in the events. It's a big social aspect to it as well. But I was very, very impressed, and very impressed with the talent across the country, both adult tennis players and youth tennis players. When I attended, and I went to the 100-year anniversary.
But we have to. I'm sorry, not to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Robert.
We have to, as an organization, make sure that we're more inclusive of the organizations like a Pete Brown. All of these organizations that form the fiber of our community in terms of tennis. The other thing that we have to do, we have to work on our governance model, and we're going through that process now, because what will happen in an organization that's 100% volunteer, as you guys know, when someone leaves, you worry about what types of personalities will come in and tarnish the goodwill. So we're working on our governance model. How can we get to a point where we're able to have a paid staff to where we're not dependent upon or having the risk of someone tarnishing the goodwill we have with potential sponsors.
Right, because they're employees, so they're bought into the whole vision, because there's a vested interest. And you're absolutely right, Robert, to get that committed, that commitment. You know, people have to be paid. Mainly because if you don't have the time, you still got to do your own. You got to be able to take care of yourself. You know, Marty has a job, but he puts in 40, 50 hours in Pete Brown, but he actually physically has a real job that he has to go to. And so it is trying to balance that. I'm a volunteer as well. And I do most of mine on the weekend and other stuff in between all the other things that I do. But you're absolutely right. For you to really take it to that next level, it's like a business owner. You can do fine with your 1099 people, but not if you're trying to scale up.
It's like that. It's like that whiffing approach, right? What's in it for me approach. So I get that. Now,
with the parents, you think, oh, great, you got parents that are volunteer. Not.
No. So me being an out of the box thinker, man, something else just popped in my head, and that's just I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm always thinking of new ways of doing things. So, Robert, I'll just listen to what you said when I mentioned the Sprite and the McDonald's. And you say, well, most of these sponsors, when they get involved, they want to know what's in it for me. So I'm going to look at it from a Verizon or AT&T standpoint. So Spectrum is a local community, how do you say, IT type company, right? So if we could get a company like Spectrum to sponsor your program, they're going to be saying to you, "What's in it for me?" Well, what's in it for me? Our youngsters, they're online. They do social media. They use your phones, and they use all of these things. And a lot of them will be subscribing to, to purchasing those types of equipment from you guys. So that's what's in it for you. We're going to give you X amount of dollars, but our young people are going to be using the devices. They're going to go online. They're going to do stuff. So to me, that's like a win-win situation. What do you think about that?
Oh, I like that. I like that, Gilbert. And I am, familiar with servicing our sponsors and the things you have to do in terms of your slide deck and being able to come up with statistics to pitch.
Yeah.
What we want to do is to have someone to help us get those relationships to get in the room. Because we have reached out to at least 60 potential sponsors, and what we've heard a lot of times is crickets. Or they'll send us to the website for the grant track. And so I'm just giving you a sense of reality. The other thing I think what we have to do a better job is to reach out to. I mean, what I say, there's a couple million African Americans. You got a couple million Asians, and people who want to support us. We have to do a better job to reaching out to the communities and not necessarily wait for sponsorships, because I'm telling you, we have knocked on doors, but that generally takes some sort of personal relationship.
Some relationship building. So with the relationship aspect, I'm thinking about the City Club, man. City Club is like a market for all of these people that we need.
That's where all the corporate people
are. That's where they go. That's where they go.
People are at the City Club.
Exactly.
But
I'm
Robert,
Go ahead, Chris.
There's a when I was in the ski world, we actually, one of the benefits, and because there is a quick quid pro quo, one of the benefits that we had so one of the benefits that we offered was, especially from automobile companies and so forth, there were adults playing skiing, right? So they buy cars, and so when you want to market to our people, then you come to our summits, or you come to our kickoff, our club kickoff, and you have your booths there, and you build a mailing list, because we're not going to give you ours, but you build a mailing list, and you have accessibility to those individuals that actually can buy your product, right? If it's a banker, we have young people and adults that can open up bank accounts and buy houses and acquire loans for mortgages. So that's how we sold it. And they benefited out of it, and they got their brand out there to our marketplace. So at the time I was skiing, there were about 25 to 30,000 of us across the country. When we would go to our summits, like this last summit that they just had celebrating they had 50,000 people there. That speaks in numbers. And so the ATA has 145 clubs, and the number of adults that are coming through are the ones that are spending money, right? And it's not a cheap sport. So even if you're traveling across the country, you still have a middle class, a grouping of people. When you start playing tennis, most of the people that I've met, they were all employed. They all had great jobs, engineers and things like that. These are consumers that will benefit those sponsors. So that's how you sell it to them. Right. And then overall, then you have future kids coming up that will be adults that also will be consumers. So that's the selling point.
Crystal, what I was thinking about when you just
pull you off of the program and get you more involved in the ATA.
and Marty said,
I used to be a part of this program when we make great suggestion like Crystal just did. They said, "Oh, that sounds so good. Okay, we got a volunteer now, Crystal. You're going to be in charge of that."
Hey, just like in church.
But
So
that's
you know what I was thinking, Crystal. I was thinking this, right? Because I'm hearing some great things. I'm sure our audience and our listeners out there, they're hearing the same things too. And for those of you who are just tuning in, this is the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. We're on every Friday from 3 on to maybe 5. Depending if the subject is great, we'll stick to it. Now, here's what I'm thinking, Crystal. You run the community briefing program every Thursday, right?
I do.
And you talk to a lot of powerful people on that program, a lot of powerful community people. That might be a good platform to bring Robert and Marty on so they can say what they just said right now, that, hey, we need these kind of sponsors, and I'm sure there'll be someone out there listening to that, because you bring bankers on there. You bring, community people. You bring people who belong to the city club, that space that they're trying to get into. That might be a good platform to get them
Yeah,
on so they can tell
there are
their
quite a few.
story. And you
Yeah,
see
we
what I'm
bring
saying?
in corporate people that
Yes.
have
I'm
money that
thinking,
are looking to. They have foundations and so forth. So yeah,
yes.
I have a
Now,
few people that
Krista, you said foundations. Now, remember, I'm distinguishing between grants
Yeah.
and sponsorship.
And sponsorship. Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's a difference. It's definitely a difference. So
Yeah.
I'll think about it. But you do know my commitment is over at the Pete Brown. So. But if
But
it can benefit, if it can benefit both, then we'll see what we can do. But
yeah,
that's awesome.
but we're all for whatever you guys are doing to
Yeah.
support Pete Brown. But I'm just giving you that as an example
Yeah.
of the connections that we have been out here, and we are making some connections. I don't want to make it sound like everyone's slamming the door on us, and that's not the case. But what I'm saying is that when you're trying to sustain an organization that's been around so long, you
Yeah.
have people who are aging out. You have
Right.
people that are retiring, and then when you look at people in their 30s and 40s, I'm sure you have it at the local level.
Yeah.
They're so busy living their lives, they
Yeah.
don't have the discretionary income nor the time to
Yeah.
really get involved. And that's something not only us, but the USTA, they're facing that. And
Yeah.
so these are challenges that we don't back off from, but we're facing, with vigor, and we really enjoy the challenge because we know it's a meritocracy.
Right,
Oh yeah.
exactly.
Oh yeah.
And I
Definitely.
think so Robert, and you and I have talked about this, and I've had this conversation with Marty. The ATA and the local grassroots programs, it's just like the ski program. So the NBS, the National Brotherhood of Skiers, is the ATA in the ski world, and all of our clubs across the country operated under that umbrella. And so when we would go to the NBS summits and mini summits, we would be raising money to take our kids, and then a percentage of that would go to the brotherhood. And so the brotherhood then had 50 clubs or 150 or 200 clubs across the country that were under that would participate in these mini summits and summits, which were garnishing tons of money in the cities that they would go to. That was how they were able to build those relationships, because of the fact they were under the they had it was the hierarchy in a sense, that we all were members of the brotherhood, the National Brotherhood of Skiers. And that's kind of how we did that. So you have your smaller clubs, but the bigger arm of that was the NBS.
I like that. I think the one thing I'm seeing there, and I see it with things like the links, the fraternities,
Yeah.
as I
Yeah,
talked about.
exactly. Yeah.
You have a sense of wanting to belong. That is something we lack in the ATN. We have to do a better job of rebuilding that in terms of our branding. These are things that is something that's on us as an organization that we're working on in terms of our governance documents, modifying our bylaws. And these are things I'm getting in the weeds on that really have to do with your branding. And so I agree with you.
Yeah, and that's how the USTA operates, right? There's the USTA, and then they have the NJTL and the programs under it. You know, they get their monies because they're supporting all these youth programs. So it's the same concept.
Well, the USTA, they have an interesting model in that the NJTL is out of their subsidiary, which is the 501c3, and the USTA is a 501c4, which means they can go out and they can do some lobbying where the USTA Foundation is separate and apart from. Now, there's 17 sections of the USTA, and those are all separate legal entities, and they too have situations where they don't go along with what the USTA wants because they have their own interests involved. And so when you look at nonprofit organizations, especially those like us who don't have employees, where all of those legal entities have employees, there is a different that's a different model. So we want to get to the point where we can have that model to where we don't have to get into personality and mud throwing and food fights.
Right, exactly.
That a lot of nonprofit organizations get into. Don't go over there because you know that they're bad. We want to come over here because we're good.
Right. And that's the business part of nonprofits. That's the business side of it, making sure that everybody's benefiting from the fact that, yes, you are, as Gilbert said, nonprofit ready, right? You gotta be nonprofit ready. And part of that is you're not taking away from each other, you are helping build each other. Right. So that's how fraternities and sororities work. They don't take away from the deltas, the core, the foundation of the deltas. They all add value to that by having divisions all across the country, right? And then they come together and do what they need to do. So you're right. Tennis is I think is the only sport that I've come into that is so competitive within the sport itself
on all levels.
On all levels. So, and Marty knows this, right? It's not like you can work together because somebody is like doing some other stuff on the backside. so it's counterproductive. But before we go off the air, Gilbert wants to go play tennis, but he doesn't. He lives in Alhambra, so he can't come all the way. He can't come all the way to LA. So, is there a court or a program or a black tennis club in the Pasadena, that little area in there, the San Gabriel area? Because he wants to go out and play tennis. He used to play tennis. So can y'all help him?
And I promise I'll make my knees better for that. I'll make it better.
Hey, why don't you go to talk to Veronica Badon? She's in Pasadena. She has the Badon Tennis Academy. And that's one I know. I know there's, I don't know Lisa's. What's Lisa up there in Pasadena? Marty, you know her, Lisa.
I think the Badon program would be suitable for him because it's an NJTL site program, and they do have adult and junior classes.
Oh, okay.
And
I think
Marty,
Lisa mostly does beginners.
And Gilbert, if you need any more information, you contact any of the three of us, and we'll be happy to go and be that hunting hound and go find it for you.
I would love that, man, because I go to these parks, man, and there are tennis courts there, and you have a certain group that controls all of the courts. And you can't get in there. It's like, hey, can I play? No, you got to be a part of us. You got to be one of us. It's like, come on, guys.
And Gilbert, I'd be happy to come out and feed you some balls sometimes to get.
I would love that, man. I would love it.
And Crystal has my number. I'd be happy to come on out.
I would love it. So, are you near the Pasadena area, or you're closer to LA?
I'm in Los Angeles, in West Los. I'm out near the airport. So
oh wow, you're all the way out there.
So that's how much I enjoy getting people involved in tennis.
Oh man, I would love it.
if Veronica doesn't fit, I'm sure there's another fit out there we can get for you. So,
her group is called the Badon Program.
Tennis Academy. Yeah, Badon Tennis Academy. You can hit me up if you can't find it. Now I'll get it.
I'll give him your number. And Gilbert, there are many tennis players out there that are seasoned and they've learned how to play the net so they don't have to run.
Maybe that's gonna be my shot, because I usually don't play the net, so that's a good strategy. Maybe I need that. So my knees are so jacked up right now, man. Even when I'm going up the stairs here, it's like, oh my Lord, am I gonna make it?
You'll be ready for JA to go home and you get to play your lawn tennis.
Yeah, there you go.
But so before we close out, I have a story for you, Gilbert. When my family, Mona and Tim, we were learning how to play tennis. We were at Harvard Park with Marty, and there was a guy that was there, and I swear the man was broke down. His back, he was holding his back. He was walking all wide leg, like his knees.
Was he pretending?
Yeah. So and so he's like, you guys play doubles, and we're like, yeah, with you, yeah, no problem. And got out there, and the man wore us out. He just,
I'm telling you, he was pretending.
And so I told him, so when I got off the car, I said, so you not a cripple, huh?
he was hoping that you guys would bet some money on it.
He wore us out, boy. Every time it was right there at the net. He never moved. He just stood right here, and everything was like this.
You see how familiar I am with that, right? Because I did that to some of my boys before, because they're thinking, oh, he can't move, he look too old. Man, we put some money on it, and I kicked their butts.
Yeah, so there you go. Both of them can tell you that's your strategy when you can't run, right, Marty?
Right,
man, I can't wait to play, man, because I need it, man. I need it for my heart and the rest of my body,
Well, thank you guys.
I think a better sport for you, Gilbert.
Okay.
This whole thing has been fantastic, guys. And Crystal, I'm hoping, I know we may need another show, but that we can take a deeper dive into how sports and entertainment collaborates together. Entertainment and sports. I mean, look at the Lakers, look at the Rams, look at the Chargers. They all have
the Dodgers
arms that support organizations.
Yes.
So, that's another show, but we could take a deep dive on that.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a big opportunity that we haven't even touched on yet.
I think that's phenomenal. Yeah.
Exactly. And we would definitely have you guys back again. This has been fantastic. As I said,
so April is Small Business Month, right, Crystal? So we could bring them in for that. Yeah. Next month, March is going to be National Women's Month. So we're going to bring in all women. And one of our viewers, Marian Lopez, I hope she's still there. Marian, you're going to be one of our guests, okay? So keep that in mind.
So before we sign off, Greg says he had a former co-worker that he was on the board of the USTA, and did either one of you know him? His name is Kevin Dowdell.
I'm familiar with the name. We work closely with the USTA board. We have a liaison with the USTA board, and not only that, the ATA, we are a non-voting member of the International Tennis Hall of Fame. So, so we are making progress in terms of building our brand, building our relationships, and I think in the not too distant future we will have some sponsorship. But internally, we have to take responsibility to make sure we don't have knuckleheads coming here and mess up our volunteer organization. I hate to be so plain spoken, Gilbert.
It's real. That is true talk. Well, guys, it's been awesome, and we definitely will have you guys back again, and continue this conversation. And as we know, Black History is not just one month a year; it is actually 365 days a year, and every part of everything, all the conversations that we're having is important because there are many people that are learning about who we are and what we do, and that's one of the things that I have found out, that we operate in silos. And so what other groups don't even know you exist.
Yeah.
And so that's always a mission of mine, is to make sure that I close the silos. So this is my way of closing the silos in tennis.
Now, is there contact information that Robert, you and Marty want to put in the chat for these folks? So if they need to access you, and let's say my field correspondent, Mr. Greg Sneed, if he wants to donate $5,000, you guys, he can give him the bank account number so you can put it in.
We're at yourata.org.
Your ATA?
Yeah, .org. And
Okay.
just go on our site, and it'll take you to how to get in contact with us. Send us an email, and we'll get back in touch. If you're giving $5, we know that every dollar really helps.
And Greg said he'll write a check, but it won't clear. He's just telling you that up front.
Hey, we take Venmo, and
there you go. There you go.
So for everyone listening, Robert's ask is he needs relationship building with corporations so that they can find funding. That's his ask. And Marty, what's your ask?
My ask is similar.
Okay.
Support, more financial support from organizations, and also my ask is to be on the front lines of this new project, Lulu's Place, and we'll bring that up on the next call.
Oh yeah, that'd be a great call.
Yes, there's a lot of opportunities out there that. Yep.
Right, and also. Knowing that we are at Pete Brown, we actually have an adult program as well, and so we encourage the parents to play and learn to play tennis right along with their children. And so we're always looking for volunteers to be involved, and we are always keeping our kids rejuvenating the young kids, the grassroots program. So if you're looking for a program to get your kids involved in, Pete Brown, we are there every Saturday. Won't be this Saturday because it's going to be blizzarding, but every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. And so come on out, and you parent, you can also play as well. And so Robert, the ATA this year, the tournament is when?
July 24th, the whole week of July 24th. We're excited that we're going to have some of the top young players coming back to play our Open. There'll be $2,000 for the male winner and $2,000 for the female winner. Also, there'll be $1,000 for the finalists. And the USTA, Martin Blackman at the USTA, the development, our winner will have a wild card into one of the 15K pro tournaments that's in their region around the country. So we're very happy about that.
That's big. So, congratulations.
But the other thing I want to say, Crystal, you had mentioned about the adults. We need more adults. If we can encourage the adults to play 3.0, 3.5 league tennis at Harvard Park, if we could get more people to come over there and play, because that helps us grow. They then will want to become more aware of what else is going on. And when I get out there playing with Gilbert, I might be able to get Gilbert down to the 8.
That's what I was
talking about.
I'm all about growing tennis at the local level.
Yes.
And that's really it, because I know that we will be blessed with the seeds of the growth at places like Pete Brown.
I
All
agree.
right.
Agree.
You're so and as Greg said in the chat a few minutes ago, and you might be able to find your spouse out there.
And you get a free tennis racket.
There you go.
All of those incentives.
I love it.
Tennis racket and maybe a spouse.
I love it.
All the things, and Greg said, or urgent care.
Yeah, I probably blow out the rest of my knees.
So there you go. So come on out, guys, and play. We actually are getting ready to gear up for the team tennis. We got to find us a captain and a co-captain, but the team that played last year, they had a fantastic time. That was their very first time as adults, and we've actually, our adult program has grown. There's about 20 of them. We've got about 24 of them as well. So come on out, bring your family, play tennis. Become a member of the ATA, and then be able to go to the tournament. It is a ball. Where is it going to be?
It's going to be at the USTA National Campus, and that's in Orlando, Florida, where Disney World is. We have a gala. If you want to participate in that and buy a ticket, last year we honored. Matter of fact, the chairman of the USTA, we honored him. We honored Dr. Johnson, Walter Johnson's daughter, Jolynn Johnson, and her family. We got the Althea Gibson Foundation to allow us to use their name to honor the team from Xavier men's tennis, because they won their league. And also we had a screening of the Althea Gibson, which is courtesy of the United States Professional Tennis Association, USPTA. We use their facility. So we had a great time. And so we plan on having another good time this year. But most importantly, we need to grow the organization through growing tennis in our local communities. That's most important, guys.
Definitely.
Okay, awesome. And if you want
to we certainly enjoyed both of you being on this program. You guys provide some amazing education for us. You know, I mean, Crystal knew a lot about this because she's on the inside, but someone like myself who is on the outside who knows nothing about this was really enlightening and helpful.
Well, don't forget, Gilbert, you and I'll be in touch.
For sure.
I'll make sure I get you his information. And if you want to come out and see some great kids playing tennis, we have our kids are at Griffin Park every Sunday, right, Marty?
Mm-hmm. Griffin Park, free UTR. Yep, free UTR match.
So you want to come out and see some incredible tennis played by young people. Our junior development and elite team. You can go there, or you can show up, come over to Harvard Park. We're there every Saturday. You can see these kids are just absolutely awesome to watch. So we invite you out.
Let me ask this question. Those kids that they put in that movie, they call him Serena's dad. What's his name? King Richard.
King Richard.
Yeah. Did those girls? Did they come from your community, from your program?
Well, not the girls that were in the actual movie, but right after, a couple, maybe 6 months after that, another documentary popped up about Richard, and they came to our facility and used 2 of our girls for that.
That's amazing, man. See, those are the kinds of things I'm talking about, putting on YouTube, man, putting it out there, and that will help to attract some people in, and that would be amazing.
And actually, that screening took place at the Pan-African Film Fest. They screened it 2 weeks ago when it was going. The festival was last week, and so that documentary. And another friend of ours, Kelvin
Brown.
Brown, he was actually in it. He's friends with Richard Williams, and so he was in that. So they had the screening with him, and a couple of our kids have been in commercials, and they've come out to our park. We actually even had some of our adults have been asked. They've come over looking for. In fact, the American there's a show on it's about football. But they actually had a spinoff that was about tennis. So they came over and got a couple of our adult players, and they were in that program. So it's a great place to come, guys.
See, I see. Those are the kinds of things, man, I want to see out there on YouTube, because you guys are doing great things, and not too many people are hearing about it. We want to get it out there, man. And one of the things, I wonder if is Marianne still on the call here? Marianne, if you're still on the call,
she may be gone already.
In the Latino culture, there is a phrase that is used for somebody who is a chatterbox. You know, they talk a lot. They call them a chismosa. You know, if it's a guy, they call him a chismosa. If it's a woman, it's a chismosa. So when you have programs like these, you want to get it in the company of a chismosa, man, so they can go out there and chat about it. That's free advertisement for you.
Right. And our program is multicultural. We have kids, Hispanic kids, we have Black kids, we have Asian kids, we have white kids. We are actually a multicultural program. And kids come from all over the city, down to the hood to play tennis. So we're very proud of our program.
That's great, man. That's great. I'm excited about this. I feel pretty good about it, man.
Okay.
And like Marty says, we need to do another show, you know, and talking about how connecting the entertainment side with the tennis side and the business side and make it all work. So yeah,
And
can't wait. Can't wait.
Sports.
Can't wait.
And the sport and the entertainment.
Yeah, the sport and the entertainment part. Yes, definitely.
So you guys are tuned in to the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. We are here every Friday afternoon at 3:00. Come out next week. We are highlighting our Women's History Month. We also are requesting that a call to action. Go over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, and the best way to get over there is to take a picture of Billie Jean King. Oh, wow.
History Month. Women's History Month.
Oh,
okay.
man.
Okay. Yeah.
That's next month, baby. That's next month.
Right. So
all right. I love it.
Take a picture of the QR code and go over and help us increase our sponsorship, our subscribership. We want to our goal this year is to monetize the Business Zone. The Business Zone will have been on the air 7 years as of July 8th. So we're pretty excited. We're gonna really do it up big. We're gonna
talk about our upcoming anniversary, co-host. Talk about it.
Right. We're gonna be remote. We're gonna be at a location, and we're gonna have a big celebration for 7 years on air with the Business Zone.
And it's gonna be live and in person, guys. So you guys get to come check out the show live. We'll have a cluster of little small businesses there that we'll interview live on the Business Zone. And, you know, it's going to be a great show. So please come on down. I'm trying to get one of my clients who runs a Jamaican restaurant. I'm trying to get her to provide food. So, hey, it's going to be great, guys.
All right.
It's going to be great.
Marty and Robert, thank you guys so much for spending the afternoon with us. We so appreciate it. We enjoyed you. And we're going to sign off, Gilbert. So take us on out.
Okay, we're out. We'll see you guys next week.
As a small biz pro, so we roll, using procurement, program, and control. As a small biz pro, so we grow, using procurement, program, and control. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur.